This is where the battle to retake the capital begins. The mountains ahead are all that stand between the army and the capture of Sanaa. Their commander is taking us high up into the frontline positions. He tells me the terrain makes it a natural fortress for the Houthi rebels, and his men are always exposed to death. It's the first time any international broadcaster has visited these areas. The army are just 40 miles from the capital. But the closer they push into the mountains, the harder the fight becomes.
Every day we make some progress. We attack and we retake land. People are lost, but at least land is liberated. The rebels are retreating on a daily basis.
But both sides have reached a stalemate. Despite arms and air support from the Saudi-led coalition, these fighters from the National Army haven't made any major gains. And as they fight for ground, the situation in Yemen has deteriorated drastically. As the front lines shift, landmines have been left behind. The army say that the Houthi rebels have planted tens of thousands of them in both military and civilian areas. The scale of the problem makes Yemen one of the worst affected countries in the world. Despite a lack of training, the army say they've defused over 30,000 mines in the past year alone. The locals in this area say all their farmland was mined. This is one of the areas that the Houthis had control of as they were trying to take over Ma'rib. The National Army and the people of Ma'rib then pushed them out, and as they were doing so, the Houthis planted landmines scattered all over these fields. Saleh and his family fled once the fighting started. They thought it was safe to return to their home.
My wife was praying here in the room and my son and daughter were sitting with her. They had lunch and my son asked my wife to pass him a blanket. As she pulled the blanket, there was a huge explosion.
The mine planted in his home killed his wife, 22-year-old son, and 8-year-old daughter. It hurts to remember what happened, he says. We just want to forget. The Houthis strongly deny the use of landmines in civilian areas. They say they only target military vehicles and accuse the coalition of planting their own mines. Regardless of who's responsible, the prospect for a lasting solution remains distant. And the Yemeni people, stuck in the middle, continue to pay the price. Nawal Al-Maghafi, BBC News, Ma'rib, Yemen.